Welcome into the Thomas Fitch Sports Show presented by 1-0 Sports. Yeah, that's right. We got a new name, but we'll get to that in a second. First of all, just got one thing I want to say.
Longhorn Nation, we're back.
That's right. This is the first episode of this semester. It is here. Boy, do we have a lot to get to. Texas football takes down the SEC to get to 10 wins for the first time since 2009. We look ahead to 2019 in Texas football. Recurring guest James Boswell is going to join us for those segments. Then we're going to head to the hardwood, talk some Texas basketball, catch up with that. And we'll conclude with some NFL talk about maybe the wildest conference championship weekend in league history. But first, some breaking news. I know I said I was going to have some breaking news, and here it is. I'm starting a website. It's called 1-0 Sports. And if you notice at the beginning, this is now the Thomas Fitch Show presented by 1-0 Sports, no longer the Thomas Fitch Sports Show. And so what 1-0 Sports will be, it's going to be a website for UT students. We'll have other podcasts. We'll have blogs, all sorts of content coming out. So to make sure you follow that, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Look up 1-0 Sports. On both those, we'll have a website. That'll be in the link in both the Twitter and Facebook bios. But just that's new. So a little bit of a new name, but same idea. Still me on the show. I might be doing some more shows. We'll keep you posted as more stuff happens. Before we get to our interview with James, I just want to talk about this incredible transformation of this Texas team, Texas football team. You look at where they were after week 2, and I know I talked about this last year, but you look at where they were week 2 following the loss to Maryland, the narrow win against Tulsa, 1-1. Everything was bleak. And I know I said this is, I was like, this is maybe a 7-win team at most. And I did say, look, there's still conference play. And, that the team is still 0-0 in conference. But to go from that point, such a low point, you bring in a new coach and go 7-6, and now he can't beat Maryland. He can barely beat Tulsa. And now the Texas Longhorns are Sugar Bowl champs. And Sugar Bowl champs in pretty dominating fashion. I know it was a 28-21 victory, but Texas dominated almost the whole game. I mean, Georgia gets the ball back down 14 with 1:02 left. They drive down the field. They score to bring it within 7 with 14 seconds left. The only reason they get down the field is because a couple targeting penalties. Texas dominated this game, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I just think people need to realize how impressive it was, the transformation from week 1 and week 2 to now with a 10-win season. But so for more on that game, let's send it over to our interview with James. All right, we now welcome on recurring guest, James Boswell, first guest of 2019 of the new semester. And let's talk about the Sugar Bowl. Certainly was a fun game.
Yeah, let's talk about the Sugar Bowl is right. It was a great game. I think, there were a lot of fun things about it. It was the first real big game for the Longhorns in 10 years. It was 2019. Yeah. So really in 10 years, it was the first big game, and I think that kind of the energy just felt different. We went to the Texas Bowl last year and said, wow, bowl games just feel different. It came to the Sugar Bowl this year, and big bowl games just feel different. That's sort of one of my takeaways from there. Just being in that environment was awesome. Yeah,
because you were there with the band. What was it like being there in the Superdome when Texas won?
Hit or miss. No, actually, it was wonderful, and I wish everybody could have been. The people who were there really got a show. That's a really nice stadium, first off. Oh, yeah. So fantastic place to watch a game, and then also fantastic place to watch a great game. To have that kind of game against that kind of team was really cool. And I think it started off from the beginning, that first drive when Texas came out and just dominated that whole drive. Consistently got yards on every play. I don't think there was a negative play on that drive.
No.
Just kind of, and it was a physical drive too. Tony Romo
really set the tone.
The word physical for me on Sunday, but despite that, it was really a physical game.
Yeah,
and that showed. Texas set the tone early, goes down, scores. Now the Horns are up 7-0, and then that punting mishap. The punting mishap.
The punter takes the knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember watching it. There was a punt. I was like, shoot, well, good punt. We're starting from like the 3. Goes to commercial, comes back. And right before they go to commercial, we watched the game last night. They show a clip in like slow motion of the punter dropping to his knee, and I saw that. We were all there, and nobody said anything.
Nobody thinks
it didn't
about
go
it.
through our mind, and then they come back. They're like, yeah, so his knee was down, and you watch it, you're like, yeah,
Yeah, it was.
Like, it wasn't even like, was it? It was down.
Yeah,
like it was barely clearly down, and that was huge momentum. Huge shift there.
There was a bit. I mean, Tom Herman doesn't believe in momentum, but the 70,000 people there, other than him, all did. And definitely the energy shifted from, all right, there's going to be a close game to, oh my gosh, we've got a chance to really take an advantage. And I mean, they didn't get the touchdown, but they got a field goal, made it a 2-possession game early.
Yeah.
That showed, the energy level showed. The sideline, there was a big difference in the sidelines there.
Yeah.
One was like, oh my gosh, we're here. And, people are going to say, oh, motivation, like, the Bulldogs didn't really care about this game as much as Texas. Texas, it's their first big bowl game in a while. Georgia was in the national championship last year.
Yeah,
so this
you know what
is
I call that?
like chump change.
Bulldog.
I think that's accurate, though. I mean,
yeah.
Everybody from Georgia said motivation was not an issue. That was a consistent message.
Kirby Smart said that after the game.
But that was from the players, too.
Right. Yeah, and this goes back to, when we were talking before the OU game, and Andrew Beck was like, yeah, motivation is great, in practice and preparation and pregame. It doesn't help you on second down. And I promise you, when Texas came out and hit Georgia in the mouth on that first drive, there was not one person that said, we can lose this game.
It might not have helped on second down, but it probably helped on first down. That first play of every drive is so critical. And the first play of the first play of the game for Texas was a 6-yard run.
Yeah.
The first play for Georgia was a nothing run.
Right.
Maybe a backwards 1 run. It was bad.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't get anywhere on that drive.
Yeah.
Then now it's 2nd and 11.
Yeah.
And then some nothing play, 3rd and long punt.
Right.
That's very different. I mean, not even like, okay, they're driving, but the defense figured it out and got to stop.
Right.
No, this was nothing. I think they got maybe 2 or 3 yards
in
those 3 plays, and then they punted and went backwards because their punter missed the snap.
Right.
The center snapped it poorly. We'll give the punter his credit. It was a bad snap.
That is true. But, you look at it, and from the start, Texas, the domination up front was what won Texas this game. Sam played well, but what won Texas this game was outgaining Georgia 178-72 on the ground.
Georgia has the better running backs, no question.
Right, and that's everybody. You talk to anybody before the game, giving the edge to Georgia on running backs, on O-line. Because guess what? The SEC, tough offensive line, tough defensive line. And Texas outgained them 178-72.
Georgia's line both sides was bigger than the Texas line. But one side played better than the other, and it wasn't the big guys.
No.
And it was the line in the run game. We talk about Sam played well, but he didn't win us the game. He didn't have to.
Right.
Okay, he scored like every touchdown.
Yeah.
But actually, he did score every touchdown.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to. He didn't have to lead the team there.
Right.
There was a run game. It was the way the offense is designed to work. Run, short pass, run, short pass, deep pass to keep him honest, run, short pass.
Because everything, when the run game's open, it opens up the passing game, and then it works back to the run game. And when it keeps working like that, it shifts back and forth, and you can go on a great drive.
Absolutely.
And that worked. And, my favorite thing is, all the teams saying, Sam can't hold up against an SEC defense. He can't run like that against an SEC defense.
Run, he trucked a linebacker.
3 rushing touchdowns later.
That first touchdown, he trucked a linebacker. I mean, he had 4 yards on that run, and 2 of them were over a linebacker. I'm watching a clip right now on your computer that ESPN's playing. We just saw Bevo truck the fence, and then Sam trucking the linebacker.
Yeah. And even the last touchdown Texas scored, when they got down to the 1, it was 3rd and 10, Sam scrambles, bucks off a Georgia defender and runs a little bit more for the first down.
Yeah. And this is exactly what Fromm said. I'm not sure I would do that in my conference. And Sam said, that's okay.
Right.
I'm not in your conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll play you here. Now, that said, I do think we can all agree that we wish Sam maybe didn't run it as physically all the time. If we look at the fact that he got injured 3 times this year, and we were fortunate none of them were serious.
Right.
But it was great to watch for that night.
It shows his grit.
Yeah. It was great to watch for that night. This was Texas's night from start to finish.
Yeah.
Let's go back. That Bevo clip reminded me. So we start off with Bevo.
Yep.
he gets to the stadium really early in his defense. He was there for a long time.
Right,
poor
right.
Guy. Bevo shows up. We got to talk to some Georgia band members about Bevo, which was really fun because they were like, oh my gosh, cattle, what is this? That was great. So Bevo shows up early and then has his little thing with Uga that doesn't go well, but
Setting the tone is what I would call it.
he did set the well, I hate to say that, but it's true.
Or in other words, where he tried to impale Uga the Bulldog with his horns.
We're fortunate that nothing happened, but it really did fire up the Texas side. Like, everyone goes, oh, well, that could have been bad, but it wasn't, so it's just cool
Had a
instead.
squished Bulldog.
Yeah, it could have been catastrophic, but it was good, so that fires up one side. Then we come out. I'm obviously in the band, so I'm a little bit of a band nerd. Our pregame show was 10 times better than Georgia's. Just that's a fact. Again, so our side gets fired up there. We come out. We have a ton of energy on our side of the field. And then Georgia comes out. And then the first drive happens. And then the second drive happens. And then the third drive happens. And it's like, okay, this is not going very well for Georgia. All of the energy was in Texas side. Start to finish, the game ends. Half the stadium's empty, and it wasn't the Orange.
Yeah.
The Orange was there full.
Yeah.
If you listen, they're great. Some really great tweets, showing the eyes as there are after every game.
Right.
And if you listen real carefully, that is the loudest I've ever heard. That was the loudest we've ever played that. It actually sounds terrible, but it was super loud. And everyone's singing, and it was just a cool moment to have all that confetti and all this stuff. I mean, it was Texas's night from start to finish, hands down.
Well, and it's certainly, you talk about the eyes of Texas, just a resounding eyes of Texas. It feels like a momentum shift for the program.
It's cathartic.
And I know we got to be careful because, there's so many teams in the past. We were talking about this the other day. Your Miamis, Notre Dame, they'll make it to the national championship game occasionally or whatever. Yeah. But you have a lot of Nebraska, these teams that Tennessee, these teams that 90s, early 2000s, who, when are they going to be back? And every, occasionally, you have one of these teams every year who gets to 10 wins, maybe big bowl game, and they're back. But this feels
Michigan
different.
Comes to mind for
Michigan.
me. They've won how many big bowl games, and they haven't been able to get there.
Right.
On the other hand, Michigan has 9-10 wins every year, which I don't think anybody at Texas would complain about.
Yeah. Well, people
for
like
now.
To complain. Right.
For now.
But there's a different feel right now.
Yeah.
And it's a mix of, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. But I think that the big factor is Sam Ehlinger.
Oh, without a doubt.
Resounding Sam Ehlinger is the reason for this confidence and this momentum.
Well, it's his confidence. Like he's a jerk.
But he
in all the right ways.
Right. I remember somebody saying, if Sam Ehlinger gets good, he could be the same like douchebag level as Baker Mayfield, but he's not. He is, I don't know the guy off the field, but on the field, he is an incredible leader. He knows what to say. He comes out with intensity and confidence, but it's not overtly cocky.
Well, let me give you my analysis on this one, because I think I have this maybe figured out, and I'm not a psychologist, and I don't know either Baker Mayfield or Sam Ehlinger personally, although I do have friends who have him in classes, so that's cool. But
little flex.
Yeah, I know. Here's my analysis. They're the same person, but Baker Mayfield has had to prove himself at every level, and Ehlinger got a scholarship offer to his dream school.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan, but let's give him some credit.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield's a great
agree.
quarterback, but he had to earn a spot at Tech. He had to earn a spot at Oklahoma. Now he's got to get over that because he was the number one pick in the draft.
Right.
So you can't say no one believes in me anymore when you're the number one pick in the draft. But that's where that.
But
comes
there was
from.
still but yeah,
that's where that comes from. It's hey, no one has ever thought that I'm this good, but here I am winning the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
So he earned that cockiness, and he felt like he needed to display it because he had to earn it. With Ehlinger, it's a little different. He grew up in Westlake, won a bunch of games at Westlake, gets an offer to his dream school. Literally, Texas is the school he grew up cheering for. This is absolutely the best way it could have played out. And then he wins the starting job his freshman year.
Right.
I mean, he has had very little, I have to prove myself, the same way Baker did. So give Baker some credit.
Yeah.
I think they're very similar. They come from the same place. That's why they're both good.
Yeah.
They come from the same place. But the difference is one of them feels like he's always been slighted. The other one has nothing but thankfulness.
Exactly.
Like, hey, I've had all these great opportunities. The other one's like, I had to earn all these opportunities. That's my psychological take. There you go.
I agree. That was good.
Thank you.
Good psychology with James. Let's kind of wrap this up. Let's talk about Texas defense.
Yes.
Because when you go back and you watch the game, that was what won it for Texas.
Absolutely.
It was they go on the good scoring drive, but then the next it's the punter taking a knee, good field position. Georgia shanks a punt, good field position, they don't score.
Fumble.
The fumble.
Drive.
Right. It sets Texas up.
That should have been a 35-0 game, honestly, at halftime, with the opportunities that the defense and Georgia provided.
And holding, talking before this game, we talked about how the worry against Georgia was offense, not defense. Prolific offense.
Yeah.
And we also said the way to beat them was force turnovers. There were 2 turnovers.
Yep.
And hold them under 20 points because those were the games they had lost. 21 points, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
And one of them kind of in garbage time, the last play of the game, which is
you could say garbage
weird,
time. It kept everyone
there were
from
multiple targeting penalties, but regardless.
Well, when are we going to have a bowl game that doesn't end in weird targeting penalties?
I know.
The last 2 bowl games, we've had weird targeting penalties. But yeah, the defense was great. If we want to talk about energy with the defense, obviously everyone loves a touchdown.
Yep.
But if you want to really talk about energy, there was more energy in that stadium on third down stops than there was on big first down plays. Like Colin Johnson, big backhand catch. That was awesome. I looked like a fool on the Instagram there, but that's okay. That Colin Johnson catch was exciting. But the third down stops, every third down stop before that got louder than the first downs.
Yeah.
Because getting that third down stop meant that's another chance for us. That's another chance for us. And it was another way to prove this defense is here and they're playing.
Yeah. And there were so many guys that got involved. I mean, Anthony Wheeler, huge sack. Gary Johnson, big plays. Gerald Wilbont had the huge
Joseph Osai.
Joseph Osai, who
super
led
excited
the team
about
in tackles, and again, we'll get to him in a second.
I'm very excited.
Led
about
the
that.
team in tackles, 8 total, 5 solo. B.J. Foster almost took off. Almost. First of all, he's going to get ejected from some games next year.
Absolutely.
But almost takes off Jake Fromm's head. Aaron Jones played well. Malcolm Roach. Also, I need to bring this up. It's nice playing against a quarterback who, when he gets out of the pocket, can't beat you with his feet.
Yes,
because there are a number of plays where he gets out, and the part of my mind that's used to playing Kyler Murray is like, well, there's a first down, and next thing you know, big old Malcolm Roach is tackling down for like a 1-yard gain.
I'm gonna say the part of your mind that has seen Big 12 football. It doesn't matter if you're playing Kyler Murray or the TCU quarterback with drop foot. I mean, they can all beat you with their feet. And, this guy's got drop foot and he's beating defenders with his feet. Something about the way the Big 12 plays.
Yeah.
If you don't contain the quarterback, you're gonna lose 5 yards.
Right.
And yeah, playing against a quarterback who's a pocket passer, very good pocket passer. Jake Fromm's an excellent quarterback.
Yeah.
Did not half as mobile as anybody. Charlie Brewer, who Texas didn't offer,
right?
Is more mobile than Jake Fromm. I think it's a good thing we kept Fromm in the game.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they didn't put in Fields at halftime, but I'm happy they didn't.
Yeah.
Because we obviously had Fromm figured out.
Right. All right. So huge win. Let's talk about other bowl games.
Yeah.
First of all, SEC sucks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It's definitely safe to say that they have some very good teams there.
Well,
as a conference, I think overrated is the right term. There was some overrated chance at the game, which I hate because I don't
because
think
if you're beating
you
a
want
team,
them to be
they're incredibly rated.
Absolutely
underrated.
They were very underrated. They should have been in the playoffs, and Texas beat them anyway.
They should have been in the playoffs.
That's the chant that we should have had, but that's too long.
They are rated. But if anything, with the bowl games showed was how even. Big 12 4-3, Big 10 5-4, SEC 6-6. I think the ACC was 4-5.
Yeah,
so everybody.
Well, you left out the Pac-12 there. I think they were around 500, but under.
Just about everybody 500. But the big stat of bowl games: Big 12 3-1 against the SEC.
And I would like to point out the one.
Please do.
Was against Alabama,
and it was Oklahoma, who sucks. So by definition, we shouldn't be surprised.
Right. Also, Alabama doesn't really count as the rest of the SEC because you've got Alabama and then the conference. Yeah. So, Alabama doesn't count. So basically, the Big 12 went 3-0 against the SEC.
Yeah. And against teams that they were all every SEC Big 12 matchup, the Big 12 team was the underdog. Baylor underdog against Vanderbilt, Oklahoma State underdog against Missouri, Texas underdog against Georgia, and OU underdog against Alabama.
And you know what? That OU game was close.
That
was close.
If it wasn't for the first half, OU outscored Alabama something big in the second half.
Yeah.
They didn't start out so poorly. They might have won that game.
I mean, that I think definitely, if you want to talk about Alabama, the great Alabama. Look, Oklahoma, a team that didn't waltz their way through conference.
Right.
Well, I say that they did. They only had one loss, so that's pretty good.
But a lot of close games.
But a lot of close games. They, it wasn't just like easy like it was for Alabama.
Right.
Played Alabama really close. And if we talk about like the Baylor Vandy game, two talented teams, maybe two underachieving teams
Right.
that should have done better this year.
Exactly.
Baylor was clearly the better team on that field.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't watch the Oklahoma State game.
But they outplayed Missouri. They outplayed Drew. I mean, and the quarterbacks that the Big 12 had to go against, the Big 12 defense had to go against. Kyle Shermer, who is the Vanderbilt all-time leading passer. That might not sound like much. You know who he passed? Jay Cutler. Moving on to Missouri, they beat Drew Lock. Jake Fromm at Georgia. Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama.
Yeah, those are some A-list quarterbacks. Yeah. And the Big 12 teams, if you watch those games, were clearly the more complete team.
Yeah.
A lot of people talked about at the beginning of the game. Oh, after Vanderbilt kept scoring those touchdowns for that SEC speed. Well, you know what? It caught up to them.
It did.
Baylor figured out how to stop that and just outplayed them in every facet of the game.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I keep using that example. That's the one that I watched, other than obviously the Oklahoma game.
Well, that was the one bummer. If there was one SEC
Texas
team
game
that I wish had won, it would have been Vanderbilt. But Baylor's going to be a good team next year.
Oh yeah. They shouldn't be 6-6 this year or 7-6, whatever. They should have had more wins for sure.
But speaking about good teams for next year, let's go to the national championship game and Clemson. Oh boy, Trevor Lawrence is a freshman and is the best quarterback, according to some people, probably in the NFL if you were to be playing right now, which might be a little far. But he is lights
He's no
out.
Patrick Mahomes.
But I mean, incredible. Clemson just shuts down Alabama. An incredible Alabama team.
An Alabama team that everyone said might be the best team ever.
Yeah.
And
Clemson
I don't think
goes
that
into the game.
wasn't unwarranted either.
Right. And here's what I will say. Bowl season is weird.
Yep.
You take a month off from games, and you get one game. Sometimes you come out flat. But regardless, Clemson outplayed. Not only outplayed, outcoached.
Also, that game had a warm-up week called the playoffs.
It did, right.
So that whole come out flat thing is dumb because you just played a game week before you're back in rhythm.
That is true. But other bowl games has that.
Yeah.
But Clemson outcoached, and it is so fascinating. We're going to talk about kind of and a little bit on the show about the coaching carousel and how it's dumb everybody going after the next Sean McVay because every coach is different. Nick Saban could not be more different than Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Complete opposites, and they're both the most elite coaches in college football.
Yeah.
There's no format for a good coach. I think it's fascinating how they do things completely differently, and they're both, exact same record last 2 years, exact same last 4 years, exact same national championships last 4 years.
Yeah.
They're dynasties. It is Alabama, Clemson, everybody else.
Well, let's take a look at what makes those dynasties. I think if you want to really talk about what makes those dynasties, you have to look at recruiting. Obviously, everyone talks about recruiting. Those two have been recruiting way above everyone else. Also, retention. Mm-hmm. So if we want to circle this back around to Texas, what happened with Texas last year? Right. Great talent, it all left.
Yep.
Let's talk about this year. Great talent, one. Now, the one who left was the one I wanted to stay. But we had one junior leave early versus all of them the previous year. That is moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, we have, Texas has a long way to go before it's playing at the level of Georgia. Or not, excuse me. Obviously, Texas outplayed Georgia. I meant to say Clemson.
Alabama, Clemson, yeah.
I meant to say Clemson, Alabama. Long way to go before that because Texas doesn't have 5-star players sitting on the bench.
Right.
They're on the field. And they're
Alabama, I think, had 3 5-star. Their 2 backup running backs are 5 stars.
Yeah. Their backup running backs would be all conference literally on any other team.
Any other team, yeah.
Not any other SEC team because then they have to get around the people they can't get around. But any other conference team, whatever.
They tear up the Big Sky.
That is true. The WAC is not ready for those guys. But yeah. Obviously, there's a long way to go there, but that's the key to having a dynastic program like that is to be able to convince your guys to stay. And one of the Clemson linebackers who stayed, he said, Coach was talking to me and said, this is going to be worth staying. Yeah, you'll still go to the NFL next year. And obviously, you've had success here. You have nothing to stay for, no reason to stay, but it's going to be fun. Yeah, and he said, after the national championship game, he said this was absolutely the best year ever. Yeah. Not just in football. Like school was good too, but football, school, everything. Being a senior is great. Right. And that is the pitch that you have to make. And
Dabo could make that pitch better
than sell
than
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo could sell anything.
Yeah.
But But, he's been able to make these pitches.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth coming back. And I think if you looked at the way Colin Johnson made his announcement, he said it's going to be worth it to come back. That's the mindset you have to get in these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to go play for big money, play in the NFL. You might not even gain that much from coming back. The Clemson linebacker, he was going to go first round anyway.
Right.
And now he's definitely going to go first round. But, he didn't gain a whole lot. Other
you
than
also get
he had a great year, and they
you
won.
get your degree. And I know people are saying, you get millions of dollars with the signing bonus. But look at the statistics of guys who go broke within 5 years of entering the league, whether they're first round or seventh round. It's staggering.
Yeah.
And if you have a degree to fall back on versus you left after your third year, it's insane. But let's move on to looking forward to 2019 in Texas football.
Yes, let's.
Let's talk about quickly who they lost. Offensively, LJ, Lil Jordan, Trey Watson, and Calvin Anderson, so the grad transfer.
Those are big losses.
They're big.
It definitely not unrecoverable, but definitely big losses. It's going to be felt.
Yeah, and then defensive side, it's mostly
the entire line.
Yeah, Chris Boyd, Devontae Davis, Brecken Hager, Charles Omenihu, Chris Nelson, Gary Johnson, Anthony Wheeler, P.J. Locke.
Yeah,
it's a lot, but like we talked about.
But let's look at who's on the bench right now.
Right. Like we talked about, so many guys have gotten chances to play.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the players. I guess we'll start with defensive players to watch. But you got Keontae Coburn, who's he was redshirted. He played a little bit in the Sugar Bowl, but didn't play before that because he was injured.
Yeah.
So he's still got 4 years. Jared Wilbon, he'll be a senior. He forced that huge fumble.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Osai, we've been talking about him.
Oh, my gosh.
Wearing number 46, people are talking about comparing him to number 46, Malik Jefferson.
Yeah.
He's insane. Incredible athlete. To come in as a freshman and lead the Sugar Bowl in tackles.
I mean, he was everywhere in that game.
Yeah.
I obviously wasn't paying super close attention. I was in the band seats, which are by rule bad. But if you paid attention, you would notice that he obviously was the leading tackler. So this is kind of a non-point, but he was everywhere.
Yeah.
He made a lot of
Malik
plays.
Did. Malik was everywhere.
Yeah, and Malik's stats weren't phenomenal, but he was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was able to. He was there to make stops. Those 5-yard plays.
Forcing guys inside.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you have Caleb Johnson, the JUCO commit, that's big because he'll replace Gary Johnson, and
you
people
need
are saying
experience
similar
there.
Speed to Gary Johnson.
Well, Gary Johnson almost won the White House. It's a good thing he didn't. I make this joke every time we talk about Gary Johnson.
Nice because he got to come back and help Texas with the Sugar Bowl.
So if any more Texas players run for president, don't vote for him. We need him here.
And then obviously B.J. Foster. Cannot wait to see him take off some more heads
and get ejected. Yeah, well, he just needs to learn to get those heads taken off in the first half.
Well, or they might be changing the targeting rule to non-malicious hits as just a 15-yard penalty. So if he can do those hits with a non-malicious intent.
Man, that rule's that's too long coming. That automatic ejection is a terrible thing.
Yeah. But it looks like they're trying to fix that, which is good.
It's good.
Offensively, looking at replacing Lil Jordan, you got Jake Smith coming in, Gatorade Player of the Year.
Can we talk about
Jordan Whittington?
Can we talk about Jordan Whittington?
Oh my gosh!
I had the fortune/misfortune of watching him in the high school state championship game. For those who don't know, my second cousin-in-law, don't quote me on that, is the head coach at Pleasant Grove.
Yeah.
So he got to deal with Jordan Whittington, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, I was there. Cuero ran 5 plays the whole time. One of them they ran maybe twice. So they ran the let's put Jordan Whittington at center and run him to the right play.
Yep.
They ran the let's put Jordan Whittington at center and run him to the left play. They ran the let's put Jordan Whittington at center and run him up the middle play. They ran the let's give it to our other running back who can get 8 or 9 yards play.
Yep.
And then they ran the let's put the quarterback at quarterback and throw the ball to Jordan Whittington play. They only ran that 3 times. They scored a touchdown one of the times they ran it there right before halftime.
Yeah. You look at his stats, 334 rushing yards, 43 receiving yards, 377 total yards, 6 touchdowns, and he played on defense.
He also played on defense. Yes.
And had 11 tackles.
Offensive and defensive MVP. Let me tell you, this guy, when he would get the ball, he would take it, he would run to the right, if that was the play called, which it was 90% of the time.
Yeah.
He would run to the right. He would stop, wait for the hole. I mean, his line did a great job.
Yeah.
No one could touch him. But here's the exciting part. He sees the hole, and then he goes. Now, we've all seen drag races before, right? They're not going anywhere, and then all of a sudden it's over.
Right.
That's about how it looked.
Yeah.
He's got the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and then he's in the end zone.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what happened in between there.
Yeah.
The guy's crazy fast. He's also crazy big.
Yeah.
Or he looked huge in high school. He's not going to be as big in college, obviously. But
with Kendall Yancey, or sorry,
Yancey McKnight.
Yancey McKnight.
Yeah,
sorry.
when McKnight gets a
Yancey
hold of
McKnight,
him,
oh my
he's going to be
gosh.
a beast. And I, for one, am super excited. Jordan Whittington's on campus already.
Yeah.
Which is great because
It's
it
on
gives
with
him
the
an
OU
extra
basketball
semester at Yancey with McKnight.
Yeah.
That guy, we all talk about, it just sucks to lose LJ, which is true. It does. He's got experience. He's big. He's awesome. He's great. I wish he'd come back.
But the thing is, LJ and Colin weren't going to be here for Sam's senior season, which realistically,
that's the
based on
year.
his growth, that's the year I think that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're getting Jake Smith, Brennan Eagles, Joshua Moore, Jordan Whittington are going to get a lot of reps this year means by their sophomore year, they're already going to be really experienced.
Whittington can replace LJ.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
In the future.
Not next year, no. But
he
the
has
year
the
after
talent.
that, probably, he can replace LJ.
Well, the interesting thing is, you lose Trey Watson, so now you just have Toniel Carter is going to transfer, or has transferred. So now it's Keontae Ingram. Then you have Kyle Porter back up, Kirk Johnson back up. I think Whittington will be getting second string reps.
Absolutely.
And I know they're planning on playing him a lot of running back. I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing a bunch of reps right behind Ingram, who is one of the players. So I'm looking forward to.
He has the talent and he has the vision. I mean, that's what I'm talking about with that patience stuff.
And
I had to remind myself that whole game. This guy's going to be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But he had running back type vision of, normally you put a wide receiver at running back, they're just going to run straight up.
Right.
Hopefully there's a hole there. If not, it goes for nothing and you try a different play. But with this guy, he took it and he had the patience to sit, wait, find the hole, and go. You can't really coach that well. That's something, if he already has that, and we put him in at running back for a few plays, that's a 10-yard, 10, 12-yard play, which we don't get when we run the ball. We get 5-yard plays when we run the ball.
Right.
If that, 2-yard plays when we run the ball, The thing that has kept Texas from being elite is the lack of the run game.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that kept Texas from being consistent is the lack of the run game. The thing that will make Texas elite is the run game. Ingram, he was fun to watch. He showed flashes. I mean, every game he had 2 or 3 plays where he was one shoestring away from breaking a 50-yard run.
Yeah.
But he didn't get it, so it was an 8-yard run instead. Well, I'll take an 8-yard run every time. You run the ball 8 yards every time, that's great. But he was so close
He's going to break
every
some
time.
next year.
I said all year, one of these plays, he's not going to get caught, and he's going to break it. It didn't happen. Next year, it's going to happen. And you put Jordan Whittington back there as another option. It's great. Obviously, I thought Kyle Porter was great in his role this year.
Yeah.
It was a very limited role, but he played it very well. He blocked well. He did whatever else. I mean, again, I'm in the band seats for every game, which is by rule terrible, so I don't actually get to pay attention to this stuff. But I liked everything that I saw about the way the running backs worked. Trey Watson was great to have.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, why are we playing Trey Watson, not Ingram? Watson was really productive.
Yeah.
He got 4 yards a carry.
He had his best game of the season.
Yeah, he did.
In the Sugar Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl was the Trey Watson
that's what
show.
it comes down to. I brought up Calvin Anderson, but also Patrick Vahe, Elijah Rodriguez.
The whole line.
You're only returning 2, and that's Samuel Cosme and Shackelford.
Yeah, but those are good 2 to return.
But yeah, Samuel Cosme, freshman All-American.
One of the best surprises of the year.
Something like that.
Honestly.
Yeah, incredible play. And the fact that he's just a freshman is awesome.
Not what anyone expected for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of those plays you get and you go, oh, yeah. Like, at the end of season rewards, Cosme's a freshman All-American. Like, oh, my gosh.
Did not see that coming.
Also, nobody pays attention to the offensive line. So nobody really knows we've got a freshman here and he's a stud.
Right.
But then that award comes out and you're like, you know what? We have had great protection on the right side. He's done a great job.
Yeah.
He's a freshman.
Yeah.
That's good. You got to have people like that.
Yeah. All right, finally, last segment with you, James. Your soapbox. You got a soapbox for us today?
Yeah, I do have a soapbox. And frankly, I'm going to say this is let me decide what I want to use real quick. We're going to call it just overtime in general.
Okay.
And obviously, for those of you who don't know, I'm a Chiefs fan, so overtime sucks.
Yeah.
Between Texas and Kansas City, overtime overtime sucks. But I want to talk about not just the whole NFL overtime thing, because I think that some of those concerns, like the whole overtime rules cost Kansas City the playoff game, is dumb. Kansas City had 5 third downs where they could have won the game, and an interception that...
Yeah, I know. I talk about that later in the show.
So But here's the thing about overtime. College overtime rules suck.
Mm-hmm.
NFL overtime rules suck. I
Yep.
think NFL overtime's a little better maybe because it's more of like a game environment. But college overtime rules suck. We see that with the 7 overtime A&M LSU game. Although that was great.
That was great.
That was great for college football.
Yeah.
No game should go to 7 overtimes. If it goes to 7 overtimes, it kind of... I know you love overtime.
I do love
7 overtimes is too many. And here's how we fix that.
But hey, it's hard to go 1-0 if you're in overtime.
Well, yeah. Okay. I don't know what that means. Here's the thing. This is a solution that a lot of people have been putting out, and I love it. I think it's great. And college and NFL now can both have the same overtime rules, and it's great. We like the thing about college because each team gets a chance. So if you're like an offensive heavy team who can't play defense, Kansas City, you still have a chance. You know, you're not just saying, well, our bad unit's on the field against their good unit. I guess we lose, which is what happened. Yeah. So we like that trade-off, but the thing we hate about college overtime is that everybody kicks field goals, and so
in field goal position at the start.
That's it. Also, if you fumble, you know, a la Texas at USC, the game's over. You lose because they'll just line up, kick a field goal, and win. So take college overtime rules, move the start from the 25 back to the 50. You're not in field goal range. You have a chance. So the defense has a chance to make a stop and say no points. You're not just defending the red zone. The offense has to make plays. Do this in the NFL. Both teams now get a chance.
Yep.
But also, it rewards defense because you can actually hold them to no points. Yeah. Not like, well, they're going to get 3 points on this one. We'll get 3 points on the next one. We'll do it all over again. It's just who can get in the end zone first. No. Make them play football. Yep. And so I think this is a common sense adjustment. And I'm not blaming the Kansas City loss on the overtime rules. Right. And I'm not blaming I'm kind of blaming overtime for the LSU A&M thing. Yeah. Stupid. A&M should not have won that game. But LSU had 7 chances to win it, and they couldn't. Exactly. So maybe A&M should have won that game. Yeah. To the Aggies out there, congratulations. That was a great event for you all. But I'm not going to disagree with that. I think if you change the rules to that, it means you're not going to get more than 1 or 2 overtimes at most, and no one wants to stay. Okay, some people. Thomas Fitch, want to stay there for 7 overtimes. It's not good for the players. Right. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for the TV when it runs till 12:30. Yeah. Just cut it off. Say 2 overtimes. I'm not a rule, but like you're not going to get more than 2 overtimes.
Well,
if you have to start at the 50.
One rule change is they might, because they're looking at this as possibly where you have to go for 2 on the first touchdown.
Okay, I don't love
just
that.
Just kind of bump that up sooner instead of the third. But
I don't love that.
The interesting thing about
move it back to the 50, that'll solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with you. And the funny thing is, I recorded the second part of the show before this. Right. And when I was talking about the NFL game, said the exact same thing. So for those listening, about 10 minutes from now, you're going to hear this exact same spiel from me about moving it back to the 50. But I'm glad we're on the same page.
I got the idea from you. I think it's a great idea.
Because
it's a compromise. You get the best of both.
You still have to drive
overtimes.
A little bit, but it's not like saying, hey, both teams start at the 25, because then you can just trade punts back and forth.
It reinforces, It gets around the NFL problem of we have a 10-minute overtime, nobody scores. Yeah. It's a tie. That's dumb. Ties are dumb.
Terrible. At soccer.
Ties are dumb.
Because you can't go 1-0 if you're 1-0-1.
Right. That's right.
That was what I was getting.
I like that. Okay, that's good. The ties in the NFL are dumb. Yeah. But at the same time, 7 overtimes in college is also dumb. Yep. Like when you get to the point, you're like, okay, we're still playing football. This is stupid. Ed Orgeron had time to get dunked in Gatorade, and then had time for that Gatorade to dry. Note, they're in College Station where nothing dries.
Yeah, that's impressive.
If you're in College Station, you're basically underwater, and it took so long for them to lose that game. Yeah. Coach O's shirt was dry in College Station. Yep. You shouldn't be playing football for that long to get dunked and then dry before the end of the game.
Yep, I agree. All right, good soapbox, good talking sports with you.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll have you back more on this semester. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, so we're going to talk some Texas basketball. Start with a little recap, and all in all, it feels like not much has changed. From the last couple years under Shaka Smart. But a little recap: Horns start out the season well, 5-0. They beat Arkansas. Big win there, and then they beat top 10 ranked UNC. Then they go on to lose the next 3 to Michigan State, then to Radford, who still not 100% convinced they're a real college. Then they lose to VCU, those games back to back to back. And then kind of recapping the rest of non-conference. Good win against Purdue, loss versus Providence, then going into Big 12 play, start off 2-0, then go on to lose the next 3 to Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Kansas. And where they are now, they just beat number 20 Oklahoma at home. They sit 11-7 on the season. They're 3-3 in Big 12 play, but the leaders are at just 5-2, so they're just 1.5 games out of the lead. But like I said a couple seconds ago, not much has changed when you look at this team versus last year or Shaka's first team. And basically, the way this team works, they're going to win some games they shouldn't. They're going to lose some games they also shouldn't, i.e. beating North Carolina, beating OU, and then losing to Radford, losing to Oklahoma State. Almost all their games have been close. That's something that you can expect to see the rest of the season. This team has a knack for close games and then kind of falling off at the end of the season. But when you look at this team, it's the same problems that they've had. It's a lack of perimeter shooting. You have some lanky big men, Jackson Hayes, who we'll talk about in a second. Some good young guys, but lanky tall guys in the middle. They're double teamed, triple teamed in the middle. They kick it out. Guys can't shoot. You look at the team shooting 32.4% from three. They're shooting 69% from free throws. It's just not a great shooting team. And that's all right if you can find ways to score in the paint, but teams realize that this team can't score in the paint, so they double, triple team guys who are up there. I want to talk about kind of the biggest surprise and biggest disappointment on the season. Biggest surprise has to be Jackson Hayes, the freshman who, coming into his senior season of basketball, I believe only one offer and shot up to 4-star, committed to Texas, now is a top 15 prospect for the NBA draft. You look at what he's doing this season, averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2.6 blocks a game while shooting 76% from the field. Just dominant offensively, defensively. He continues to improve every game. You look at his free throw numbers. He's struggled in non-conference play, but in Big 12 play, 22 of 26, and on a team that's shooting below 70% from the free throw line, having a big man who can shoot 22 of 26 is incredibly helpful. So he's been a huge asset. Now, the bummer about him playing so well is, like I mentioned, he's top 15 on a lot of people's draft boards. There's a good chance he'll be gone after this season. Another Mo Bamba, Jared Allen, Miles Turner situation, kind of one-and-done guys coming in. Going to biggest disappointment, I think it's got to be either Elijah Mitru-Long or Kerwin Roach. I'll start with Elijah Mitru-Long. He was the transfer and was really hoping for some better shooting from Mitru-Long. He was a veteran, but you look at what he's shooting this season, just 34% from the field, 32% from the three-point line. That was a huge reason why the Horns brought him in, was to provide that spark, that shooting spark, and hasn't done that. Hasn't provided a bunch of good minutes as a guard, and so that's been a disappointment. Now the other thing, the other guy that I brought up was Kerwin Roach, and it's not that Kerwin Roach has played poorly. He's leading the team in points with 14.1 points per game. He's the second best behind Jace Febres, second best three-point shooter at 34%. Not great. Shooting almost 43% from the field. But the reason I say he's a disappointment is he stuck around because he wanted to step up, and he wanted this year to be a year where he could kind of break out of that shell and actually become kind of a first-round prospect. He has incredible athleticism. He's one of the most athletic guys in all of college basketball. He just and a great defender. He just never has quite had the shot. And while he's had some good games, he had 30-something points against UNC. He had something like 23 points over the weekend against OU. He's just been up and down, hot and cold. He hasn't been consistent this season, and that's something that the Horns really needed, was consistency from the guard position. That's something they haven't had since really Isaiah Taylor was playing that. Matt Coleman, another guy who I would put in the disappointment category. One of those guys that you were hoping to see improve over the offseason, and there just hasn't been a drastic freshman to sophomore year improvement. And another thing that this team has struggled with is guys fouling out. Obviously, last year that was a problem with Bamba. If Bamba fouled out, that was basically the game. That happened against Duke. That happened in the tournament against Nevada. Without him, the horns were sunk, and it's pretty similar. Hayes has had the same problem. Coleman's, interestingly, you normally don't see that with guards, but Coleman's had that problem last season and this season. And when one of those guys gets fouled out, goes to the bench, the game's just about over. And that's something, I think one of the problems is, I think the 5-foul rule in the in college basketball is dumb. I think you need to give the guys 6 fouls, especially because the refs in college basketball, it feels like these days, are calling it so chippy. They're calling just about everything. And if you're going to call it super close, you got to give the guys more fouls, especially, these freshmen coming in who all of a sudden are being bodied by bigger guys and don't quite know what to do. Give them an extra foul. It's no fun when every game there's multiple people fouling out. That should not happen unless the guy is playing super undisciplined. And it's not like Jackson Hayes or Matt Coleman play super undisciplined, or Mo Bamba last year. And this is across the board for all teams. It's not that there's a lack of discipline. It's just that 5 fouls is not enough. So the last thing I'll say on Texas basketball, Shaka's firmly on the hot seat right now, and I do think it helps that football is playing well right now. I think in the past, when football has struggled, football struggles, and you move into basketball season, you look at that like, okay, we don't need football, we need basketball. And I think now that football is doing better and there's a lot of hope and buzz from that, I think that takes him off the hot seat a little bit, but he's got to finish 3rd or 4th in the Big 12. I think and most importantly, he's got to, make the NCAA tournament, and he's got to win a game. He's got to win a game in the NCAA tournament. You look at what he's done. First year loses on a buzzer beater to Northern Illinois or Northern Iowa. Next year doesn't make the tournament. Last year blowing a 20-something point lead to Nevada. He's got to win a game in the tournament or else he's gone. We'll see in the future if the seat continues to get hot. We'll keep you updated on some names that the team's looking at. So now let's move on to some NFL talk. And tell you what, one of, if not the, that I can think of, the craziest conference championship weeks in the history of the NFL. Super Bowl is set for Pats-Rams in Atlanta. But in the conference championship games, both NFC and AFC championship games go to overtime. We'll start with the Pats-Chiefs games. Definitely some kind of rule issues with both. So in the Pats-Chiefs game, Pats really dominate the whole game. Chiefs find a way, and it was an impressive game for Patrick Mahomes to kind of show off that, you know what, yes, I'm a lot younger than Tom Brady, and I have way less experience. I mean, this is Mahomes' second playoff game ever to Brady's, I don't even know how many. I mean, Brady's has won more Super Bowls than Patrick Mahomes has played in playoff games. You look at yards, Patriots 524 to 290. Incredible difference in yards, and Chiefs just found a way to stick in this game. Mahomes led the Chiefs on a great last-second drive to tie the game and send it into overtime. Then in overtime, Pats win the coin flip, go down the field against a sloppy Chiefs defense and score. And, this brings me to my first rule issue. I don't like the NFL overtime rules, and I think it's better than it has been in the past when you look at the fact that you could win on a field goal before the other team has even touched the ball. But the fact that you can win the coin toss, drive down the field and score, and the other team never even touches the ball and you can win the game on that, I don't like that rule. Now, to the Patriots' credit, if the Chiefs' defense just stops them, it's a different game, and so there is that factor. But I think both teams have to get a chance at the ball, and I think, obviously, you have problems in college football with the overtime, people starting at the 25. I think you change both leagues. You say you start at the 50. You start at the 50, you're out of field goal range. You still have to drive down, get in field goal range. Each team gets a chance at the ball. I think that's the best way because you look at NFL rules, it favors, in an offensive game like Chiefs-Pats, it favors whoever wins the coin toss. And so then it's a 50-50 chance you're going to win the game. That's not how overtime should be, look, we couldn't solve this in regulation. Let's get a fair way and play a little bit more. I mean, look at, there's no other league. Well, that's not true. There's some other sudden death. But the fact that you could never touch the ball and lose the game on offense, I think that's terrible. So and then conversely, in college, starting on the 25, I've seen a lot of people say this, it really benefits teams who excel in the red zone. And it has nothing to do with how well you can drive. And if you get stopped, you can still kick a field goal. So I think you start both teams at the 50, where you're not in field goal range. You still have to get a first down if you want to have a chance at kicking a field goal. That way, and both teams get a shot at the ball. The unfortunate thing is the time factor. But you can say you have to go for 2 to start with, and I know college is already looking at doing that to say first overtime you got to go for 2 if you score. So that's my first rule issue. Now let's move to the Rams-Saints game, and there are some a bunch of rule issues in this one. So basically what happens, Saints jump out to an early lead, Rams charge, a little pun there, Rams charge back, end of the game. Game is tied, Saints have a chance. It's like 3rd and 10, something like that. They're on like the Rams' 15-yard line. And running back runs out. Drew Brees throws the ball. Defender comes in when the ball is right in the air, just takes out the Rams defender, takes out the Saints receiver. While the ball is in the air, doesn't look back for the ball, doesn't give it 1 second of time, just crushes the guy. Really could have been a pass interference. Should have been a pass interference. Should have also been a hit to a defenseless receiver. No flags were thrown. Instead, it's 4th down. Saints kick a field goal. Rams come back and kick a field goal. Or maybe the Saints, regardless, because of that, they don't score. If they had gotten the first down, it was about 1:15 left. They could have ran out the clock, scored a touchdown. Instead, they have to kick a field goal. Game goes to overtime. Drew Brees throws a pick. Rams have like a 57-yarder. Greg Zuerlein drills it. And the Rams are Super Bowl bound. So, first of all, you have the missed PI call. And again, there's kind of two sides of this. Yeah, it was a missed call. But a football game is not, there's 59 minutes, 57 other seconds in a football game to win it. There was poor play calling on the Saints' part. There were some missed face masks that the Saints had against the Rams that the refs didn't throw flags for. And so while it's unfortunate that this play happened with a minute left in the game, and did it affect the outcome? Sure. But you know what else affected the outcome? When the Saints had to go 3 and out in the first half. When every little thing in the game affects the outcome, we just focus on the plays that happened in the last 2 minutes. Now, was this an egregious miss? Sure. Absolutely. But there is so much other football that could have affected. And it went to overtime. The Saints had a chance to win, and they threw an interception. So, yeah, did it if they make the call to the Saints win the game? Yes. But the Saints could have won the game even with the refs, and they should. The Saints, if I'm a Saints fan, here's why I should have been mad. The Saints should have won this game regardless of the call. But they didn't. So here's the other interesting rule. This is some NFL rule. Rule 17, Section 2, Article 1, that states this. Do a little reading. The commissioner has the sole authority to investigate and take appropriate disciplinary and or corrective measures if any club action, non-participant interference, or calamity occurs in an NFL game, which the commissioner deems so extraordinarily unfair or outside the accepted tactics encountered in professional football that such an action has a major effect on the result of the game. Basically, he can investigate, he can call for a replay, he can say, we're going to flip the results of the game. If he finds something that is so outside of normal gameplay that it affects it. So theoretically, if Roger Goodell wanted to, he could enact this rule and issue a replay. Now, when you really look at this rule, it's kind of more for like, a natural disaster, some kind of terrorist thing, a fan running on the field and like grabbing the ball mid-play, something like actually crazy, not a missed call. So I don't think it's going to happen, but people have been tweeting about it. And it is something interesting to kind of think about. So that'll be the Super Bowl. I'll give a little preview next week on the podcast. Last sports thing we're going to talk about is talking about the craziness of the coaching carousel. I know this was big a couple weeks ago, but the whole it started with the Cincinnati Bengals brought in the Rams quarterback coach to interview for a head coaching job. Quarterback coach for a head coaching job. And so it started this whole Twitter kind of, everybody tweeting, "Oh, I had coffee with Sean McVay in third grade. You should, now the Bengals are looking at me for head coach." And I think this is dumb. Not the Twitter thing, that the fact that everybody in the NFL is trying to hire these Sean McVay knockoffs, essentially. And here's my problem. Is Sean McVay a great coach? Yes. Is he doing revolutionary things in the NFL? Yes. Is he in the Super Bowl with a really young team, a team that I said wouldn't make it because they're too young? Yes. But here's the deal. Look at other coaches in the NFL who are having success this year. Look at the other playoff coaches. Bill Belichick, not old. Does not run a spread West Coast offense that's fun and fast, and he's old. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, nothing like Sean McVay. Fun offense, yeah. But you don't have to go out and hire a young guy to get an Andy Reid offense. Matt Nagy with the Bears. He's an offensive coach, but that's a very defensive team. And he said that's okay because that's our personnel. Not a young guy. He is young, but he's not Sean McVay, 30 years old, a couple years out of out of college, Cliff Kingsbury, chiseled beard, chiseled face, super offensive. Anthony Lynn with the Chargers. Very defensive team. Very defensive team. The opposite of Sean McVay. Just a couple of the coaches who made the playoffs this year. Quit looking for the next Sean McVay. Start looking for the next coach that fits your system, because every team is different. Every team has different personnel. Sean McVay fits the Rams personnel perfectly. Bill Belichick fits the Patriots personnel perfectly and probably would fit most other teams' personnel perfectly. Matt Nagy's a great fit for the Bears. Anthony Lynn is a great fit for the Chargers. Andy Reid is a fantastic fit for the Chiefs. Quit looking for the next Sean McVay. Go out and find a coach that fits your team, fits your players. There are great coaches. The fact that Cliff Kingsbury got hired at the Cardinals. You know how many other good coaches there are out there outside of Cliff Kingsbury couldn't win at Texas Tech. Couldn't win at Texas Tech as a head coach. How do you expect him to move to the NFL? That is much more defensive. I know it's moving towards the offensive side, but that is much more defensive. Cliff Kingsbury never had half a defense in all his years at Texas Tech. Is he a great offensive coordinator? Absolutely. I think he would have made a great hire for any team at the OC position. But because he's young, is good, coaches a lot of offensive guys, Coach Patrick Mahomes, and is good looking, he got hired. That's the dumbest thing. And the Chargers are going to suck. Or sorry, not the Chargers. The Cardinals. Cardinals are going to suck. I promise you that. Because Cliff not only does he not know how to be a head coach at the college level, going from head coach at the college level to head coach at a professional level, completely different thing. Completely different. I think an OC job would have been great. But I think this is going to go down as a terrible hire. Now, as far as Cliff, he can pick up a fat paycheck from the NFL and say, you know what, I wasn't right for this. Go back to the USC offensive coordinator. Go back to Tech, wherever. But guys need to quit looking for the next Sean McVay and start looking for the next coach who's good for their system. All right, so our last little segment is going to be Fun Fact of the Week. I started this last year, and basically how this works is right before the show, I looked up Fun Fact on Twitter, just searched it in there, went to latest, and the first thing that pops up, I read. So this one, y'all feel free to tag this guy at Married Man Talk. Said, fun fact, the average cell phone contains 25,000 germs, making it one of the dirtiest things you come in contact with on a daily basis. Put another way, it's 10 times dirtier than your toilet. So eating out of your toilet is cleaner. So, fun fact, cell phone's pretty gross. Now, I'm going to deconstruct this really quick. Eating out of your toilet is cleaner. Nobody said you're using your iPhone as a plate. But in the future, if you have some food that drops on your phone, maybe don't eat it. Maybe don't lick your phone. Just that's that. All right, that's going to do it for us on the show. First episode of 2019. Excited to get back into it. And just a reminder for those listening, again, feel free, send me your hot takes, send me your questions, send me topics you want me to talk about. If you send me those, give you a little shout out and I'll talk about it. I'll debate it, whatever. So you can either DM me on Twitter, on Instagram. You can text me. You can leave a comment on iTunes. Make sure on iTunes and Spotify, because we're on both, and YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all of those cliche millennial things. Make sure you go and do that. Anyways, from the Thomas Fitch Sports Show, I'm Thomas Fitch. Hook 'em horns.